Yes, welcome to another episode of the Automation Awakenings podcast. And as you can see, we are again in our virtual studio because I have a special guest today with me. He is the CEO and founder of SyncroBot, and that is a company that specializes in fleet management software for indoor but also for outdoor environments. Welcome, Julian Maas.
Yes, hi Oliver. Thanks for having me. Hi everyone. I'm glad to be here in your very special podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here with us. And let's start directly in this special environment topic. I heard your software is working in an outdoor environment as well. To be honest, that's the very first time I hear about a fleet manager for outdoor usage.
Yes, yeah, it is really coming from my background. So when I was doing my research, my PhD, I was working in a last mile delivery, urban delivery project. And in this project, we developed a super cool process where a delivery van is not only bringing the shipments to the end customer, but also delivery robots inside of the van. And within this van, the packages were loaded into the delivery robot. And then at the very last mile step, the most complex one, the delivery robots were then dropped off on the curb. So we really had to make these different vehicles interoperable, that the robot knows at which process step where can be then the loading happen and the drop off happen. And for this, we needed some kind of platform to make them interoperable and coordinate the different process tasks. And this is what we then saw is not only usable in last mile logistics, but very much needed in industry environments as well, because you need to have different vehicles making interoperable movements together. So it is not only about getting the vehicles moving on the same path and avoiding congestions, but it's making them interact with each other. So just as a quick example, we have a project where the tugger train brings pallets on different carts between buildings, but how do you get the pallets on the carts actually? So for this, forklift can drop them on there, and if you have an autonomous forklift for this as well, it is very cool to make them interact actually and coordinate these tasks, and that's what we do with our platform.
Okay, that means your PhD was the starting point of SyncroBot then.
Exactly. So that led the spark in that sense. Yes. We the whole concept of having a middleware or a platform above the vehicles to combine different vehicle types, and as you mentioned, a small delivery robot and a delivery van sharing different streets, different areas, also different APIs. Um, this whole concept was the inspiration to do that for industry environments as well. Yes.
So, when was that? Some years ago, or how long are you in the business?
We are more than 1 year in the business now, but relatively early on. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so would you say you are the only one orchestrating outdoor fleets now?
I mean, some other claim to do it as well, but in the end, we see that we are the ones also having it in our portfolio and actually market this as well. Yeah. And yeah, this is really possible because also coming back to the question before my research, I did 4 years in last mile delivery. We were the first ones able to deploy a delivery robot here in Berlin for autonomous driving. We've got all the regulations right. So this really helps to define the processes and get the technology straight, and that's why we can offer this nowadays. And there, I want to distinguish between having a vehicle just drive outside, but having actually a fleet interact with each other outside. That's what we do. That's why, and I think we are very much not the only. We are maybe the only one operating in this niche.
Okay, because you said your software is made for outdoor but also indoor usage. So this sounds for me like the operating system for logistics overall.
That's overall the goal, exactly. Yeah. So we that's why we also do not focus on processes only, but also on the whole site. Also, our map is generated for a whole site that you can uh, switch seemingly between indoor and outdoor if a vehicle is capable of driving there. And that's why we bring a lot of different technologies also to the indoor side. I recently read that 3D lidars are relatively new in the indoor environment. So for us, that's nothing new at all, because you don't need that kind of technology outdoors very much.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's go on with some trends here. So you said, yeah, with mixed fleets, there are some trends in the outdoor sector, but also the indoor sector. So would you say this will be combined in the future, or what's your take on that?
Definitely, that will be combined. I mean, on the one hand, it depends on how the site looks. But when you have different buildings on a site, then you need to have vehicles drive between them, and then you need to load the vehicles. Maybe some vehicles can drive indoors and outdoors. So you need to interact on the whole site, because at the end you want to optimize the throughput and the performance of the site level, right? Not only of one process. It's really an end-to-end view.
Okay, so would you say there are technologies developed for outdoor moving indoor, like you just mentioned, but also vice versa, indoor going outdoor?
Indoor going outdoor, I'm not seeing so often yet. I mean, the whole forklift game is going there in direction right now, but it's still, yeah, moving on, so to say. But we do see that a lot of outdoor vehicles go indoors as well. So all the big providers in the last mile logistics are also going indoors as well now. And they are much more able to deal with complexities, because they know that from urban environments already.
Yeah, when we look on projects where companies try to integrate robots, and I'm especially thinking of indoor environments now because this is yeah my experience. Still, we see that companies are struggling a lot in such projects. Although we have the VDA 50/50 standard, we have certain software players out there. But for me, it still seems like the end boss of automation to integrate all those AGVs, AMRs, other type of robots into a fleet management software. So now your perspective as a software vendor, why is that?
Yeah, that's between, because we have different navigation stacks, like the AGVs are limited to a digital rail. We have the AMRs able to freely navigate and calculate trajectories. And you need to abstract that on the same kind of navigation level to actually then give them different orders. And that's what we are working on. We do not only work with the VDA 50/50, we do also work directly in ROS, what some of the robots are programmed in. Also, we do have the OPC UA standard, which is the industry-wide standard. Also, when you look at the robotics in this world, for example. So we do need to abstract different APIs that we can have a unified layer of understanding. How do you create different tasks and route sequences for them actually? And then we have our logic, how we plan where can be congestions, where can the vehicles interact with each other, and then we dumb it down to that level what is needed of the different vehicle providers. And that's our main point here. And this is working indoors exactly the same way. Yeah.
That's really interesting that you say, of course, you have the VDA 50/50 interface in your portfolio, but you also are able to connect directly to ROS. That's something very special, right?
Exactly. We hear that very often with our customers, that especially with our partners, the vehicle providers, some already have some AMR usage, or yeah, a lot of them have it already, and they say we would be limited with the VDA 50/50 because we cannot use our very smart trajectory calculation, maybe also live calculation, that we can overtake another vehicle. And if you would integrate with the VDA 50/50, you would reduce the capabilities, right? So that's why we said we need to have a ROS there. And again, all the delivery robots outdoor are integrated or programmed in ROS. That's why we said we need to have a ROS node. We developed our own ROS node we can implement on the vehicle. So we can then directly also much deeper integrate to the vehicle in itself, and can even have some functionalities like setting a direction light to one side or to another one, so that also indicating where the other one, where the robot is going. This level of integration is possible with ROS and not with VA 50/50, at least at the moment.
That brings me to the first buzzword I will use today, and there will be a second one as usually in the episodes. So the first one is humanoids,
Yes.
because it sounds as if this connection to Ross directly might be a big advantage for orchestrating also humanoids. Is that so?
Yes, it is. We already have a project in place. In 2 months, we integrate the first humanoid as well.
Oh, okay.
So we are not limited to moving robots with wheels, but also with legs. We also have a project going on. Do you know the typical robot dogs, which are possible for?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so these dogs
Yeah,
we also
everybody loves
integrate.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are much more open to different vehicle types to integrate together. So you also can you also mentioned with the view of the side level, you can really think of what tasks are needed on a side, and then we have cleaning robots, transport robots, service robots. We can combine them because we offer different wrappers and APIs.
That's really exciting. You said you are integrating this robot dog.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I can
Okay,
send you
but
some videos later on.
yes, please. But because that means, or at least I imagine, to integrate such a device like a humanoid or a robot dog is completely different to integrating an AGV.
It is. It is different, especially in the API. But that's what I meant, that we have an API wrapper able to abstract the different APIs in our process logic. That's why we do not need to adjust our backend and our planning logic, but only the wrapper, so to say. And once they're done, uh, we can use that for the next customer as well.
So we will see many humanoids in the next years orchestrated by SyncroBot.
Uh, I would be very much pleased, yes. But of course, the humanoids, you need to see which use case is best suited for them, right? So our whole approach is being vendor agnostic enables us to look at the process and see what technology is best suited for it. Because in the end, we do not need to provide or deploy a specific vehicle. We are able to provide the best needed vehicle, right? Or the best suited vehicle. That's why we look at the process and say, how can we automate this and which one is suited for it? And then there are certainly use cases where the humanoids are better suited for it. But enabling a mixed fleet gives us the chance to also get best throughput for the other processes, where a moving robot with wheels is maybe even faster.
That means you could imagine a humanoid picking up a box, for example, and handing it over to an underwriter AGV and continuing the transport and everything orchestrated by SyncroBot.
I can very much think of that exactly. Yes, yeah. I really think it is combining. It's all about combining the specialities of the different robots. And when one more robot can lift up to certain heights, we need that robot when the shelf is that height, right? Then a humanoid is not suited for it. But when it's about picking the right goods, maybe humanoid is much better suited for it. So we want to access these different functionalities to get the best performance in your warehouse, because that's, I have the feeling, the big issue at the moment where a lot of robots are still lacking. It's about the throughput and the performance. And we tackle this in this way, that we say, use the best suited vehicle for it.
Would you say that 2026 is the year of the humanoids, or is it rather 2030?
I mean, at least in the sense of talk of the town, it's 2026. If it's about deployments, I would say we still have some time until we figure out which use case is best suited for it. But I do see very much potential for it, definitely. Yes.
So, when will it be?
Oh,
Soon or later?
yeah. I,
What's your personal opinion? I mean,
mhm.
nobody knows. Yeah.
Of course, I mean it's looking into the future is always something interesting, but I think at the moment, moving robots with wheels are much better suited when it comes to movement in general. But we also have some projects where we see we want to have mobile manipulators for any kind of picking processes. There, I can imagine humanoids more, also in combination with different vehicles. And then I very much like the idea of software defined vehicles. So I think the design of the vehicle will also change in the near future as well. And so for now, the AGVs we stuck with them, I think, and then in the next, but rather sooner than later, maybe 3 or 4 years, the other vehicles will come too as well.
Okay. Let's go to the second buzzword I brought with me today, and that's, as always, AI.
Okay.
So please be honest. How much AI is in your route optimization, or is it rather classical mathematics?
Both. To answer it, yes. we,
Yeah.
we have both. Of course, for the actual optimization, mathematics is better suited because you will find an optimum, right? That's what the mathematics is for. But when it comes to handling data and different data inputs, you need to have some kind of AI approach to make that usable. And what we do is we do not only react to certain events, but we also predict certain events. So we look at every robot and say, where will it be in the future, at which position in time? And in this way, we can then manage where will be congestions or not. And these predictions is learned in our AI approach that we look at historical data, where will be the vehicles in the future. And this prediction is completely AI. But then the afterwards, on an abstraction level, the route optimization is still in mathematics.
Okay. I heard you claim that you can optimize a fleet by 50 or even 60%. Um, is this done exactly by this combination of AI and mathematics, or is there some further magic?
There's some further magic as well, of course. No, first of all, I have to say the 60%, it highly depends on the use case, of course. It highly depends on the customer. But so one is the mixture using AI in a very focused level. And on the other side, we do have a capability-based routing. So in that sense that we say we look at the site, we see which vehicle is also suited for which process. We do not define that a certain process is only able to be fulfilled with one vehicle type. So we have a list of transports created, and these transports have some requirements a vehicle need to fulfill. And then we have a vehicle which has also some capabilities, and then we map the best suited vehicle for it. So that we call it capability-based routing and not fixed process-based routing. So we can then say also this vehicle is not only suited for one processes, but for multiple ones. And that's why we want to reduce the number of vehicles needed overall. And that is how also the percentage is calculated.
Okay, understood. Talking about scaling fleets,
Mhm.
many customers out there started with the first use case, automated it, and want to move to the second one or scale the first fleet. So, what is your advice from a software vendor's perspective? Um, uh, how to do that in the best way?
Of course, you need to have with each vehicle some kind of proof of concept first and some make sure that it's running. But what we are working on very heavily is to have a plug and play solution. We as a software want to, in the end, basically we want to avoid the integration in WMS system because that's what the most complexity has. So we want to give you as a user the possibility to define your processes in our GUI and in our interface and schedule them and define what kind of trigger is needed to actually start the transport. For example, a light sensor or so from a conveyor belt. And then we want to get rid of the integration in WMS system and have the plug and play solution. Of course, we offer it when it's needed, but in that sense, we want to scale faster. That's the one approach, that plug and play. And the other one is what we're also working heavily on is we call it the single map of truth approach. So we dynamically update the map saved on the vehicle. Each vehicle has their sensor set up and is scanning the environment and then saving this map to be able to localize in itself, right? And each vehicle type needs to have different maps at the moment. And we combine them and then recalculate them uh, that you only need to have one global map where every robot is able to localize in itself. And in this way, we also reduce the deployment time very much. That we say once a site is mapped, use that map for all the new vehicles. And that's why we are faster in deploying and also in scaling across vehicle types.
Okay, is this something similar to the LIF, the layout interchange format of the VDA 5050? Or is it based on that maybe?
It's based also directly on the localization level in the robot using SLAM algorithms. So we use any point clouds, either it's with depth cameras or with LiDAR sensors, also with 3D LiDAR sensors. And then we save, I mean, with VDA 5050, that's not possible. But with the ROS API, it is very much possible to get the sensor output. And then we can put a timestamp on the data, and then we know what's changing in the map. And that's why we can dynamically update the map every time. And then we just need to consider the different angle, the sensor setup of the vehicle, and then we know in which angle the map is saved and recorded, and then we can recalculate with it. And so we're using visual SLAM and SLAM algorithms for it.
Okay, that sounds like too good to be true. You know, that's the big dream of every customer out there. Using one central software and then plug and play any kind of robot into it. Um, I think everybody would like to have it. Yeah.
Yes, that's why we developed this exactly. Yeah. I mean, of course, it's not at this stage that you say it is now there immediately, but we have it ready that you can have it in a project phase. Yes.
Okay, that means customers would approach you and you would integrate further hardware vendors if required together with the customer then.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, understood. Let's move ahead with a little bit of outlook.
Hmm.
SyncroBot in the year 2030 and how will the environment look like? Will we have this zero human logistics already, the dark warehouse even, and SyncroBot orchestrating all of that? What is your personal vision?
I think the term dark warehouse is a bit frightening, to be honest. I would like to have still humans in the loop somewhere, but all manual tasks I think will be automated. If it's moving, if it's picking, all of that we can automate. But we need humans to sometimes supervise it or be the technicians or run the system still, right? Um, but I want to get rid of the physical intense labor, the movement, the manual tasks. This can be done by robots, especially when you look at our demographics in the near future. This will be very much needed. Um, but there will be humans on a managing level or maintenance level still included, right? And then also, um, what we want to do is that we are able to virtually deploy the robots as well, that you do not need to be physically there when you deploy it. That's what we're also working on for the next steps. So, in that sense, you can scale also even faster in the future.
Okay, so in this year 2030, of course you don't like this wording so much, but can we switch off the light then in the warehouse and only robots will take over and technicians will supervise it? Or do we still need a couple of more years? What do you think?
Maybe it's not done by 2030, but we accelerate it as fast as possible. And I still think the lights should be still on to to also to get in there. Maybe it's also some kind of peak to flex up. And so I think there should be always the chance that the human can interact with the vehicle still.
Let's talk again a little bit on the topic of standards and the outlook towards the future. We talked a lot about the VDA 5050, currently in the version 3.0. You said you are integrating your robots directly with their ROS system. Um, is this the way to go, or do we need to integrate all of that into a VDA 4 or 5.0, or do we even need additional standards? Or is this the way to go, that the software fleet manager is really integrating every single robot, in a specialized way?
I mean, when we are the only ones offering that, then I would like to have it this way. No, but joke aside, I do like standards. I think standards are very good for the whole industry, for the market, and our whole objective is to get more robots in use. And for this, you can also use and need standards over time, definitely. The question is, how do you deal with standards where they're not there implemented yet, or where the standards are not able to standardize all processes? So that's why we offer this mix. Wherever we can use the standard, we want to. Wherever we need more functionalities, we use more functionalities. Also, looking on a global scale, the Americans are not, in the US, they do not use the VDA 5050 too much at the moment, since they have their own standardized processes. And when you look at different, not only on the robot standardization, but also on the standardization of IT systems you have within your company from a customer perspective. When a customer has multiple sites, the customer do not want to deal with hundreds of IT systems in their environment. So we want to also be able to provide one platform across sites for one customer in the US as well as in Europe as well as in Asia.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Julian, our time is almost over, but I still have one question for you. Imagine you have a customer on a green field, yeah? You can do whatever you want. What would be your personal hints to this customer? Do I have to start directly with a fleet management software? Should I first go ahead, explore some robots? What are your best practices here you can share?
Our approach is, as mentioned before, we look at the process, which technology is best suited to automate this process, and then we see which vehicle type and which vendor can offer it, and we really, support along the way, end to end. And I think that's this flexibility you need in order also to flexibly adjust your warehouse while planning it or while building it or while having different processes or reacting to the market, or you need to have flexibility. And that's why we recommend to have a fleet manager in between to already uh, be able to adjust to different vehicle types if you need to. And this middleware layer gives you the chance to do it. That's why we say, even if you do it step by step, one by one, we would recommend a flexibility layer in between. And then also, to be fully honest, depending on how much peak time you have, or if you have a high throughput and a very stable volume flow, then maybe a storage and retrieval system is just better suited than moving robots. But as long as you have, or as soon as you have some kind of variance and fluctuations and peak times, then you need flexibility, and this you get by having individual agents, namely the robots, but also a platform able to control them and scale them.
Yeah, interesting. Julian, thank you very much for all of your exciting insights today. And I hope that you out there were also listening carefully, like me, about ROS versus VDA and your vision of fleet management and robots orchestration. So, thank you very much for being with me today, Julian.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for asking these nice questions. Very enjoyed it. Thank you.
Great. Then see you in 2 weeks again for another exciting episode of Automation Awakenings. And goodbye.